There is a strange problem at Ferrari. People want more cars. Ferrari could make more, but it doesn't. In fact, Ferrari says it wants to remain true to an unusual principle. Sell one car less than the market demands. Think about that. Most companies chase demand. Ferrari protects it. And somehow, that makes the cars more valuable. But that's not the strangest part. Ferrari has grown from roughly 7,600 annual shipments in 2015 to 13,752 in 2024. Yet it still deliberately limits production, and its profitability has exploded. So what is Ferrari really selling? A car? Or something much harder to manufacture? Scarcity. But scarcity alone doesn't explain it, because anyone can make fewer products. The real trick is making people want the missing ones. The first reveal. Imagine two companies. Company A makes 100,000 cars. Company B makes 10,000. Both cars are excellent. But suddenly, one feels different. Why? Because the second car carries a message. Not everyone can have it, and humans notice that. We are naturally sensitive to scarcity. When something becomes difficult to obtain, we start assigning it more value. Ferrari understood this long ago. But Ferrari didn't simply stop producing cars. It built an entire system around scarcity. Limited models, controlled production, exclusive experiences, personalization, racing, heritage, and carefully managed access. Each piece reinforces the others. The car becomes more than transportation. It becomes Ferrari membership. Doesn't simply ask, how many cars can we sell? It asks something different. How many can we sell without damaging desire? That's a completely different business question, and it changes everything. Because selling another car creates revenue today, but protecting exclusivity can create value for decades. Ferrari's own strategy explicitly emphasizes limited volumes to preserve exclusivity. Its 2025 strategic plan even reaffirmed the principle of selling one car less than market demand. But why would a company deliberately leave money on the table? That's the mystery. The business model hiding in plain sight. Look at Ferrari's numbers. In 2024, Ferrari shipped 13,752 cars. That's not much compared with mass-market manufacturers, but the company generated 6.677 billion euros in net revenue. Its adjusted EBITDA reached 2.555 billion euros. That's a 38.3% adjusted EBITDA margin. And there's something important hiding inside those numbers. Ferrari's revenue isn't growing simply because it's selling dramatically more cars. The company focuses heavily on product mix, personalization, special models, and brand-related businesses. In other words, Ferrari tries to make each customer more valuable, not simply find more customers. That's the first loophole. More volume isn't always more value. Sometimes, more volume destroys value. The scarcity machine. Think about a normal product launch. A company makes something. It advertises it. People buy it. Then production increases. More people get it. Eventually, the product becomes ordinary. Ferrari does almost the opposite. A new model arrives. Demand rises. The company knows people want more. But production remains controlled. The waiting list grows. The car becomes harder to obtain. And suddenly, the shortage becomes part of the product. That's powerful. Because now the customer isn't only buying performance, they're buying access. And access feels different. Ferrari doesn't make every customer equally important. The company has built a relationship with collectors, repeat customers, high-value clients, people who don't just buy one Ferrari, they buy several. They participate in events. They personalize cars. They become part of the Ferrari ecosystem. This creates something unusual. The customer isn't simply purchasing a product. The customer is entering a world. And once you're inside, there are more things to buy. Special series, limited editions, experiences, personalization, lifestyle products, racing-related experiences. The Ferrari business becomes much larger than the vehicle itself. And this changes the psychology. Imagine Ferrari suddenly announced, "Good news, everyone can buy one." What happens? The product becomes easier to obtain. The emotional signal changes. The badge still says Ferrari. The engine still sounds like Ferrari. The engineering is still Ferrari. But something invisible disappears. Exclusivity. And that's the dangerous part. Luxury doesn't work like ordinary economics. A normal company often wants availability. Luxury often wants controlled availability. Because if everyone can get something, it becomes harder to use that thing as a signal. And luxury is deeply connected to signaling. People don't only buy what something does, they buy what owning it communicates. Success, taste, status, achievement, access, identity. Ferrari understood that the badge itself could become an asset. But Ferrari had another advantage: its history. Ferrari wasn't created as a normal car company. It was born from racing. The road cars helped support that racing identity, and racing created something advertisements struggle to manufacture: credibility. When a Ferrari wins, the road car benefits. When Ferrari appears on a racetrack, the road car gains mythology. And mythology is incredibly valuable, because facts can be copied. Stories are harder to copy. A competitor can build a faster car. Another company can build a more comfortable car. Someone can even build a more expensive car. But copying decades of history, that's different. Ferrari isn't only selling horsepower, it's selling accumulated meaning. Then came the personalization trick. Here's another piece. Ferrari increasingly turns customers into participants instead of simply choosing red car. The customer can create something much more personal. Colors, materials, details, specifications, individual touches. Ferrari says personalization has become increasingly important to its product mix, and there's a psychological reason this matters. People value things more when they helped create them. It's called the endowment effect, and personalization pushes it further. The car becomes my Ferrari, not just a Ferrari. That distinction matters, because now the company isn't only selling scarcity, it's selling uniqueness. Scarcity can backfire. If a company simply refuses to sell, customers eventually leave. So Ferrari needs something else. It needs demand to stay stronger than supply. That means the brand must constantly create reasons to care. New models, new technologies, new designs, racing victories, special editions, events, stories, experiences. The machine must keep moving, because scarcity without desire is just unsold inventory. That's the part most people miss. Ferrari doesn't manufacture scarcity alone. It manufactures desire first, then it controls availability. The bigger mystery. Now look at Ferrari's evolution. In 2015, Ferrari shipped 7,664 cars. By 2024, that number had reached 13,752. So Ferrari didn't literally refuse to grow. It grew carefully. That's important. The strategy isn't, never make more cars. It's, don't grow so aggressively that the brand becomes ordinary. That's a much smarter strategy. Ferrari can expand, but it wants to control the speed, because luxury has a threshold. Cross it, and exclusivity starts collapsing. Ferrari's recent strategy still describes each model as being produced in limited volumes to preserve exclusivity. That's not an accident. It's the architecture of the business. And here's the unexpected twist. The most valuable thing Ferrari sells might not be the car. It might be the feeling of not needing everyone to understand why you have it. Think about it. A Ferrari doesn't need to be practical. It doesn't need to be cheap. It doesn't even need to be available. Those weaknesses can become strengths. Because luxury works differently. The inconvenience becomes proof. The waiting becomes proof. The price becomes proof. The limited supply becomes proof. The message becomes, if you know, you know. And that creates a powerful social signal. The final reveal. So why doesn't Ferrari simply double production? Because doubling production could create twice as many cars, without creating twice as much desire. Worse, it could weaken the very thing customers are paying for. Exclusivity. Ferrari's own numbers show the strategy. From 2015 to 2024, shipments increased, revenue increased, profitability increased. But the company continued emphasizing controlled volumes and product mix. In 2024, Ferrari's adjusted EBITDA margin reached 38.3%. That's extraordinary for a manufacturer. And Ferrari itself has said its results were driven by factors such as a strong product mix and growing demand for personalization. So the secret wasn't simply sell expensive cars. It was control how many people can get them. Then, give those people a reason to care. The real lesson. Ferrari discovered something most companies forget. Revenue comes from selling, but value can come from refusing. Every additional product can generate money, but every additional product can also reduce rarity. And rarity creates desire. That's why Ferrari's strategy is so fascinating. It doesn't try to maximize ownership. It tries to maximize meaning. A Ferrari is valuable partly because millions of people know what it is, while very few people can casually own one. That's the paradox. The car becomes desirable because access is difficult, and access stays difficult because Ferrari protects the brand. So Ferrari isn't really playing the same game as ordinary car companies. They're not asking, how many cars can we sell? They're asking, how much desire can we create before we give someone the keys? And that changes everything. Because sometimes, the smartest way to build a luxury empire isn't selling more. It's knowing exactly when to stop.